Growing up, in a single household and stuff, since my mother and my grandmother, and I was about like 4 years old, I watched an episode of Soul Train. And for some reason, I'm watching all these dancers dancing and stuff. I'm looking like, man, what's going on, and stuff. And then I got hooked on to it. That's what made me really fall in love with music from there. I
Okay.
just turned 9 years old, and I told my mother, I said, I want to be a talk show host. And my mother looked at me, she said, say, what? I said, yeah, I want to be a talk show host. And she said, you know what? You can be anything you want to be.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. So for all those crazy people out there who never heard of your boy, who ain't tapped in, they don't know what's going on. Louisville, Kentucky is in the building. Give us your name and tell us what you do in a couple of seconds.
My name is Rashad Ali. I'm a content creator, podcast host, and a DJ of the R&B talk show since September 3rd, 2016. I've interviewed over 476 legendary artists, unsung and independent artists and stuff. And, me, I love what I do. I've been doing this as far as podcasts for 6 years, what I'm saying? And looking forward to getting that 500.
I like that. So let's go back to where it all started for you in Kentucky with your moms, your pops, the dog, the cat, all of that. How did you fall in love with hip hop?
Well, growing up, in a single household and stuff, since my mother and my grandmother, I never forget this was 1985. And I was about like 4 years old. I watched an episode of Soul Train. And I never forget, watching it. And I try to remember, I think it was Jasper Isley. That's crazy how I remember that. And for some reason, I'm watching all these dancers dancing and stuff. I'm looking like, man, what's going on, and stuff. And then I got hooked on to it. And then for some reason, as time went by, it stayed in my head. So every 12 o'clock, Soul Train really kicked it. That's what made me really fall in love with music from there. And I was more infatuated because we had Video Soul, Club MTV, Top of the Pops USA. What was it? Dance Party USA. It was all those music shows, back then. So that's what got my brain tuned in to watch it, see how everybody does and stuff.
Well said, well said, well said. So in the midst of you watching Soul Train, Don Cornelius, and all of this stuff going on, who was performing that day on Soul Train? Because usually have performers. To your recollection, who was performing that day on Soul Train?
Oh, man, that day, if I ain't mistaken, it was Jasper Isley. And then another one, it was The Whispers. And I can't remember somebody else, but I do remember vividly. I remember that memory a bit. But I remember dancing to that music and stuff. And then I told my mother, I said, I want to get the tape. And because back then, the cassette tapes was a thing. And She said, what tape you talking about? I said, I want to get the Whispers. Now, I can't remember the song, what it was. But I remember she took me to the record store back then. I think it was like $8. Came back, jammed to it and stuff. Back then when they had like the singles besides like the full album and stuff like that. So since then, man, I don't know, it just did something to me. Maybe that was my calling and stuff, but I just got hooked right away. But really, though, Dark Cornelius is how he talks to people, the guests and stuff he had on there. I was more focused on him than I was the guests. How he talks, and it's like everybody, enjoy, him besides certain issues they have with him and stuff. So, that's what really made me a fan of him.
Well said, well said. So, in the midst of watching Soul Train, you talk to your moms, want to go to the record store, get a CD, check out the Whispers. Who was your mom's favorite, maybe musical artist back then, or even your pops? Who was your parents' favorite artist back then?
Well, my mother, it's funny you mentioned that, though, because she was in a girl group back in the early 70s, 1971, through like maybe 76. It was called Three Shades Deep. And, because one sister was real dark-skinned, was caramel complexion, was light-skinned. My mama, she was brown-skinned. So they had a dance competition and stuff. They used to sing covers, of different girl groups and stuff like the Jones Sisters. What else? The Emotions. Any girl group that was hot in the 70s, they did a thing. But back in those days, that you have to have your parents' permission. So my grandpa was like, "Nah, I want y'all to focus on your education." And then, life, they went their own way and stuff like that. I always wondered what could have been had they would have done the girl group thing and stuff, but they was kids, during those times and stuff. So she loved, with her, my mother, she loves, of course, R&B, funk, disco. She grew up watching, listen to the Temptations. I mean, just variety of stuff. Yeah. So growing up, she played a bunch of music in her house. So she was a fan of everybody. I can't really say and there was a particular artist that stood out to her. She just loved everything. Because I guess because back in those days, every song jammed. So it's kind of hard to say what's your top 5 favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: with your mom loving music, she was in a group, a girl band, if you will, Three Shades. I like that. They all had different complexions. Do you think some of that music stuff kind of poured into you as the genes from your mom to you?
I believe so, though, because it seemed like her DNA went inside me, though, because I can't get nothing from my father. And that's a honest God truth. And then just really, watching her play music, in the household growing up and stuff. And, that's what made me be a fan. It's like we'll watch when we had Showtime Apollo and stuff. It'd be 12 o'clock at midnight and she'll wake me up and say, hey, Showtime Apollo was on. And this is when Sinbad was hosted back then and stuff. Because I used to always tell her, and say, if I go to sleep, can you wake me up, so I can watch it. And then I was jamming to, was it Force MDs? Oh, man, it was Joe. It was a bunch of people back then. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, my curfew was at 8 o'clock. My mother felt like, what, he loves music so much, I'm going to wake him up so that way he can watch our City Hall show and whoever, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So, yeah, man, that was always my thing, man. Because that's when I knew that, because I'm going to tell you what did it for me. Okay, 1991. We was on the way to a Winn-Dixie grocery store. So I just turned 9 years old, and I told my mother, I said, I want to be a talk show host. And my mother looked at me, she said, say, what? I said, yeah, I want to be a talk show host. And she said, you know what, you can be anything you want to be. As soon as she said that, that's all I needed to know. And stuff, because because I had a dream, I was taking over our City Hall show, and he wasn't there. And here I am, I'm interviewing, I think it was Bobby Brown, and I think it was somebody else in my dream. It was crazy, man. And I told her that when I woke up, I said, that's what I want to do. Even though I was good at basketball and baseball and stuff, but in reality, I knew music was my calling. I didn't know I was going to be doing what I'm doing now, but I knew back in my mind, that's what I want to
do. I like that. I like that. Okay. All right. Yo, if you are just joining us, you are tuned in to the Kenny D Show. And I'm your host, Kenny D, where we bring you entrepreneurs, hustlers, and stars. And today we got a true hustler in the building, the one and only Rashad Ali, right here, right now on the Kenny D Show. So let me ask you this. You've been doing your thing. It's kind of your calling in high school. Did you do any type of maybe hosting and stuff like that there? Where did you get your first start in kind of hosting as a young kid?
Yeah, so around that time, I just completed middle school, and my friend, Shanika, and I haven't seen her in years. So she told me about an uncle, that was a concert promoter at the time, rest in peace, Casey Durkinson. And she said that her uncle needed, people to, she couldn't find anybody to make concert flyers and stuff. And back then, I was doing graphic designs and everything before, like, the 3D thing was even a thing back in the early 90s. Because back then, I used to spray paint stuff for schools and everything. So fast forward up, we went over to the house. I showed him my work and everything. He said, you did all this? And I said, yeah, this is all me. I'm just a one-man show. I was like 15 talking like I was a grown man. And so he said, how about this? He said, if you get back this flyer for me, man, I'll pay you $500. I know you're not 18, can't cash it. I'm going to give you straight cash. It was like my mind was hyped, but I was like, man, yeah, right. I said, he ain't going to, do that, Then he actually gave me $500. Man, I went right to work, put that together. And the first act that came in town was New Edition, was the headline. And I think the opening, I'm trying to think who was it. I think it was Tamia. That's when Tamia just came out by that time and stuff. So I did a flyer and everything. Fast forward up, as time went on, I did my very first hosting. Okay, when BT had T Summit, and this one, Donna Lewis was just a new host, new fresh face in the scene and stuff. And
Mm.
so in the midst of all that, I guess they was asking people, could they host or whatever, ask a few questions. And I remember going there, I was nervous. And then they gave me 5 questions, and I was interviewing, I think I was interviewing her and stuff. And
Mm.
then she told me straight up, she said, I like, how you talk. He's like you're confident. I know you're a little shaky, but she said, you know what, you keep doing this, you can go somewhere with that. And
Mm.
man, I tell you, as a teenager, I ain't care what nobody said about me, man. I know that came from her mouth. That's all I need to know, you know. And I was like, man, this fine sister here, man, gave me confidence. I said, man, forget all these little girls trying to say I was ugly, man. To hell with them. It came from her mouth, and rest in peace.
Oh man. So let me ask you this. Now you're interviewing someone in the industry. Tamia, New Edition was there, stuff like that. Obviously you were starstruck that night because it's your first time. Were there other
Yeah.
moments where you were starstruck as well? So because now you're starting to see yourself kind of really where you wanted to be.
Yeah, well, you know what? When Casey working with him from 1986 through 2009, he used to school me in about a lot of stuff. He was like always tell me, focus on what's going on behind the scenes. Don't get so hooked on the screen, because a lot of times you see on the red carpet, it all what you think it is. So I kept that in mind as a man, and I kept hearing it, watching people who he knew and how he was moving, doing his business and everything. So I say, you know what? He's right about that. Because and it was weird from thinking like a 60-year-old thing, like, wow, okay, I get it. So I was, with me, the only woman that made me starstruck was Janet Jackson. Even though I was excited to see everybody, but at the same time, I carry myself by him. I hate the word grow. I'm gonna say he molded me. Where like how to talk to people and stuff. And watching how they move, I said, okay, because some artists at day and night, you just don't know when the lights are on or off in the house, when nobody there to cut it off. So, so like just being her, and this is when the Vet Rope came out. And I tell you, man, just looking at every celebrities, I was excited, but with her was different. I'm like, this is like that's like royalty status.
Right.
And man, my heart was pounding everything. And I told her straight up, and when you're young, you say stuff without thinking.
Right.
I told her, I said, Ms. Jackson, I said, you are the finest woman I ever seen in my life. I said, I've been loving you since I was 5 years old. And so she started laughing and everything. And she appreciated it. I said, I know I'm 16 though. I said, I can't wait to get on so I can marry you one day.
Oh.
Oh man. Yeah, I was confident, man, but I was crazy talking like, yeah, man. But looking back, I said I did for all the fellas, man. They want to say so to her.
Right. So you mentioned the guy gave you 500 for the graphic designs
Yeah.
that you did, and you guys are bringing on some major people, stuff like that. Yeah. What did you do with the first 500 that you was given?
Man, the first thing was on my mind was, of course, at the time we had the magazine ads and stuff like that. I was watching the episode of Wayans, and I see, man, every week they held this fresh like gear, like Carl Kanai and everything else. And I told my mother, I said, I need to go to the mall and I want to get this outfit, that Marlon Wayans had and stuff. I thought it was dope. So they didn't have what I was looking for what he wore. I never forget, I bought 2 Carl Kanai t-shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, some shoes. And I said, okay. And I said, okay, this when I have braids, I make sure I kept my hair fresh and stuff. And I thought about, say, me, kind of like brand new to this business, I'm going to have to really step my game up.
Right.
So, man, every time I got paid, I went straight to that mall and stuff, man. And me come to school, like, hey, Rashad, man, we do selling drugs. Nah, I ain't selling no drugs, man. I got a job, and stuff. But
Right.
yeah, man, that's what made me step my game up to really, to far as fit into the act, man. But yeah, dude, Carl and I, it was what was it? It was FUBU. Oh man, Nike, man. Was a Tommy Hilfiger. So, young black man in the 90s, man, you're making that money as a teenager, man. Oh man, that's awesome. People thought I was selling dope in my neighborhood. I wouldn't even sell it, man. And it was like, hey, man, people tell Mama to say, hey, I see your son looking nice though, but like, what's going on? Is he? I hope he's not selling drugs. Then my mama had to explain, said, no, he's working. he got a job, you know, and I wasn't employed.
So, so, so in the midst of you doing, you hosting and you at these industry parties and you're on the mic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
At what point did your mom see you and like, wow, you know what I mean? Even though obviously she was in a group, was there a wow moment for your mother?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you mentioned that though, because what made her stand out. So when I was 23 years old and I had my very first interview, and the person I interviewed was Donnell Jones. So I was
Mm,
working for this online radio company. Used to be what's his name? Orlando Woodson in the morning. And it didn't last. It lasted for like 4 years around that time. But I got a chance to learn a lot from him. You know, rest in peace. You know, to the brother. But she was shocked. You know, because what happened? You know, I told my mother, they didn't seek it to hear my voice on radio. So
right.
one of her co-workers at the time said, "Hey, girl, you know," she said, "Is that your son and stuff?" You know, and then she heard it, and my mother was hyped by the reaction she was getting from them. You know,
Okay.
she wasn't excited. She never showed it, but just hearing everybody, she's like, okay, you know, I'm glad everybody's love it. You know what I'm saying? That's what made her hype about that. But fast forward up, you know, it's what they do it all on radio. When I interviewed Kid Lattimore, that blew her mind. And
Mm.
then it went from Kid Lattimore, they went for After Seven, they went for After Seven, then it went for Raheem Devon, you know, then Lady Williams, you know, and her being an old school head, you know, and interviewing somebody from her generation, that blew her mind. Lady Williams, that was it. Everybody else, she didn't care about after that.
So let me ask you this, because you've interviewed some greats, Kenny Lattimore, Raheem Devon, Wendy Williams, as you mentioned. Obviously, you were in love with Janet Jackson. In
Oh,
your
boy.
opinion, who was Rashad Ali's most impactful interview to you? Who was the most impactful interview for Rashad Ali?
Yeah, my two most favorites, and then people tell me this all the time, it was Glenn Jones and Michael Cooper from Confunction.
Mm,
Because when I interviewed Glenn Jones, my whole thing was I know in his mind he probably think about I'm talking about one particular song that everybody knows, and that'd be about it. So my thing was like, okay, I'm gonna see how he talks to people, you know, and I'm gonna dissect his history, doing like year by year, album by album, and stuff like that.
mhm.
And as the interview was over with, he told me, he said, "Man, dude, I've done had a lot of people interview over the years, dude. But dude, you know, you somehow you knew about me. You know, I was singing in church. I grew up in Florida as a singer, had up and down with labels and everything. And he said, man, this or here should be, you know, on like a documentary or something, man. So, and then from there, then everybody loved that interview and stuff. And then it was Michael Cooper. Because with him, it's one thing I was talking about Confunction, but I could tell his eyes got big because I was talking about his solo career. So I guess his mind's
Mm,
like, man, that was invested. And I was talking about with his song Shoot Shoot ran on BT from 1982 to 1984, as far as like video wise and stuff like that. And see, my thing was like I wasn't focused on what I was gonna say, which I was gonna say. I was focused on the viewers. Because I always
mm.
want to make sure that the fans of these artists get a chance to know about them, what happened, behind the scenes. It's like you don't have to be messy, but you know, ask them, okay, what went wrong, you know, and they always open up and explain stuff like that. So those are my favorite two impactful interviews and stuff that I really enjoyed.
Mm. Okay, 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 okay. All right. So let me ask you this. The name Rashad Ali, is that your actual name? Is that a stage name? The name is very catchy, all that,
Yeah.
and a bag of chips. What's up with the name Rashad Ali?
All right, you know, yeah, my government name is Rashad Khalil Johnson. So the Ali, you know, I want to represent Muhammad Ali, you know, I'm not a boxer and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So, and I thought to myself, I said, now if I go by Rashad Johnson, I was like, I'm not saying it's going to stand out. And I feel like what's the guy to do nothing. I said, and then I did one day when Muhammad Ali passed away, I don't know, man, it clicked in. This is before I did my Army podcast. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to use Muhammad Ali's last name. And I
Mm.
wanted to stand out because all the reason why I did that because I want people to really draw into what I was doing. You
Okay.
know, still going by Rashad Khalil Johnson. I was like, let me, you know, go by Rashad, you know, Ali. and stuff. So people say, "Oh, you a Muslim?" No, I'm not a Muslim. I'm a Catholic. And just that, the reason why I use him because I was like, let people know that I'm from the 502 Little Kentucky and stuff. And SIB paying homage to him, even though I'm a different league, boxing ain't my thing, but
Mhm.
it was just might be a way of standing out. Kind of like how Whoopi Goldberg, prime example, her government name is, I think his name is Karen Johnson. Yeah, that's a government name. So she picked a name out that like stood out.
Mm.
So that's how I kind of got the inspiration from her, for that.
So let me ask, did you ever get a chance to maybe obviously Muhammad Ali is no longer with us, but did you ever get a chance to interview him or maybe even his daughter? Did you ever get a chance to interview any of the Alis?
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. So when I was working at Winn Dixie grocery store, not Winn Dixie, it was Kroger's, and I met his brother. And
Mm,
that's when he was married to his first wife. I just graduated from high school. And I met him and everything and stuff. And he was real cool. Talked to him. And then so that was like kind of my connection close to Muhammad in a way. And then
mm,
fast forward up, I never got a chance to meet Layla, but I remember during a parade after Muhammad died, she was a limo. And it's crazy how life kind of goes in its own way. She wrote so she wrote up the window. I don't know if it was her or somebody in the limousine. She was taking everybody. And in my mind, I was like, I know she's a beautiful woman. I was like, damn, man, she is fine in person, you know.
mm.
But at the same time, that was like my closest connection was get to know his brother for a couple of years. I haven't seen him in a long time. I don't know if he's still living or not, but hopefully I get a chance to see him one day. But sorry, as far as meeting her, I wish I could have met her, but I wish it was a different situation and stuff.
Mm.
But RIP to Muhammad, man. Yeah. But when I saw her, I was out of that crowd, man. It was scorching hot, 96 degrees, man. But it was the only time Louisville was quiet. No violence, no nothing. People was in a total shock, man, that week.
All right. I like that. I like that. I like that. Okay. Yo, if you are just tuned in, you are tuned in to the Kenny D Show, where we highlight entrepreneurs, hustlers, and stars. And today we got a true star and a hustler in the building, the one and only Rashad Ali, doing it big right here on the Kenny D Show. So, your podcast, the R&B Show podcast, what is up with that? How did you start the podcast for all of us R&B lovers?
Yeah, so for the RB Talk Show, it's funny, man, because after I got burnt out doing like online stuff back then, and I guess dealing with certain people, I was like, I don't want to do it no more. So what happened was the RB group Riff, there was in a movie called Lean on Me. There was a guy that was sick in the restroom in front of Joe Clark and everything. And their manager reached out to me, asked was I gonna do interviews, and I said no. I said I'm not gonna do it. I said no, I'm good on that. And then it clicked. I said, wait a minute now. They see me post all this content. Let me go ahead and do that. So I changed my name from the RB Soul Effect TV to the RB Talk Show.
Mm.
So that's what clicked in. Then I went from like interviewing like certain artists that I do personally, certain RB singers. And then next thing you know, man, the very first celebrity guest was Raheem Devon. Then it was Riff. Then it just went from there. And then it started becoming a habit because at the time of 2019, you got to think about it. Nobody was doing a podcast to the pandemic. All of a sudden, everybody was doing a podcast, to that point.
Right. Right.
So I went for like 20 something, I think it was like 27 interviews by the end of 2019. Man, the pandemic, brother, dude, I was like rolling. When I saw that it was 186, in 2020, they just kept big and big. That's when I realized, like, how there's an interviewer. And it's one thing they watching the guest, but the PRs and manager, they watching you, how you talk to people and everything.
Right.
So I said, okay, for me, I'm gonna separate myself from a lot of people, it wasn't about, okay, I should be better than them, like that. I want to give something that people want to hear, not just controversy, who you slept with, I hope you're not in trouble anymore, nothing like this. So for me as a black man, I want to make sure that, our people get a chance to enjoy, great content. That was my thing.
So you mentioned you interviewed Raheem Devon. He is one of the most fabulous singers out here. Shout out to Neo Soul. He is his footprints are all in that. How was that interview for you, interviewing Raheem Devon?
Man, it blew my mind because when the PR reached out to me, and big shouts to Rafael Blanco, and I was talking to him. I was like, man, I can't believe I'm interviewing this brother
Mhm.
and stuff. And when I made an announcement, everybody got excited. So I said, okay, I'm gonna take my time, go from there. But dude, I was almost starstruck because it's one thing you meet somebody, but actually talking to him. And I think I interviewed him for like an hour and a half? Yeah. And we broke down. I was talking about the first album, up until this album and everything. He performed one of his unreleased songs on live on Instagram. So, all his fans had a good time, man. And that's what kickstarted having more celebrities coming through. That interview just went from there.
Mm. So, if, for those people out there doing podcasts who maybe they've given up, maybe the first month, first 2 months, or maybe even the first year, they haven't seen any results. How important is it for them to just keep sticking with it until you get maybe that one guest like a Raheem Devon or Janet Jackson or Kenny Lattimore, whatever? How important is that for that host to stick with the podcast?
You know what? Well, the main thing is that you gotta stay consistent. That's one thing. Because anytime you put a title out there, people just draw into it. One thing, you always got to hashtag every post you do of your company because every time you hashtag, if you say, your company's name, people look it up on Google, people see the links of different stuff for the past and the present, and go from there. I say that don't give up. When you interview with people, no matter if it's a newcomer or a legend, just take your time because, like with me, I have my moments where my mind be all over the place from the outside of it. Then I got to remind myself, okay, Rashad, you about to interview this individual. Make sure you're locked in. You know what I'm saying? That's the key. Because sometimes with certain guests, you never know which personality you're going to have that day.
Mm.
You just hope they have a good energy. Come on in, because with every guest, I tell the PR to tell their clients that, I want, make sure they have a good time. That's most important. Just loosen up. They ain't got to be stiff, anything like that. Not only doing interviews, but if you're not doing interviews, between that post content of history, the knowledge and the more you post about it, people engage into it. Like, prime example, like, no matter how many interviews I do in between that week, I post like what's going on here this Black Music Month. I break down the history of it. That's what stands out. Because taking a picture of celebrity is cool, but it doesn't do you no justice. Because anybody can walk up, because we live in an internet world now that is more accessible to reach out to a person. When you screenshot stuff, you take, what I'm saying, but people more focus on what you bring to the table. They don't care about if you took a picture with Disney Washington, Holly Berry, or nothing. It's about what you bring to the table. Because I never got infatuated to get caught up with that. And I see that happen to too many people in the past. So I said, okay, I'm gonna separate myself from a lot of people. But people say, oh man, Rashad, you need to, say like you need to go outside, like the word outside, man. Listen, I've been outside, just that I don't remotely put myself out there like that. I ain't no groupie, so I'm a grown 43-year-old man. Let's get that straight.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So let me ask you this. Since you were one of the pioneers in the game, you've been doing it for a minute now in the industry, which is not easy independently. What is Rashad Ali looking for when you are bringing a R&B guest on the podcast or artist or whatever? What is Rashad Ali looking for when you are bringing these artists on your podcast?
Well, you know what? My main goal is to make sure the interview is successful. I want to make sure that the guests have a good time when they're on the show. And then my viewpoints is like, okay, I'm not a controversial person, so I let the manager, the PR know before the interview starts that I'm just focused on your history, what you accomplished. It's one thing me read your bio, but I'll talk about stuff that I know about you, and I just collectively put it together. And I always make sure that the fans get a chance to get so much information out of the artists and stuff. Like, prime example, when I interviewed Mr. Dalvin, everybody knew it was going to be a good one. And I started talking about stuff about them being honored, in North Carolina. And then he mentioned he said that situation was horrible for them. And I mentioned about the unreleased album he put out back in year 2000. That was I think he was working with Madonna or something like that, And I was bringing all this stuff up. But I always like to have people participate, when it comes to that. Because when the people in the industry get familiar with you, they know your work, you ain't got to worry about nothing. Because one thing I learned that every time you do an interview, no matter who is on there, they watch. And they'd be like, you know what? I could trust this person. Let me bring my client to the show. And that's how those emails and phone calls, text comes in right away and stuff, because I'm gonna tell you what hurts is that we live in a time where people are tone deaf, and the sad part about it, they think that they can do the exact same thing as you do. It doesn't work like that. Because when they see you on the screen, they get, oh, that's easy. It doesn't work like that. And that's what makes it unique. Everybody's built different. But since we live in a sense of the world, then people are trying to take it the wrong way. Nah, you hate, ain't nobody hate. Look, man, it just that's the honest God truth, But with me, I tell you, you interview so many people, I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes your brain gets fried. Like right now, before I got on there, my mind was all over the place,
Right.
When you in the business for so long, it felt like your brain's in the air, but you're right here, and that happens, a lot and stuff. But I say what thing an interview can go wrong is when I'm gonna say this though, no offense to any parents that got kids. It's just that my thing is like if you could, focus your child be a great performer, have somebody that got some experience when it comes to interviews, have them watch, they can take notes. Because sometimes with kids, man, I tell you, man, it's a gamble, man. It ain't easy. I don't, no offense to any parent out there, I don't like interviewing kids, man. They gotta be professional, you know what I'm saying? I can't take them seriously, no disrespect, if you're not doing your job as a parent. That's honest God truth and stuff, But yeah, but as far as being an interview, it's fun because you get a chance to get your thoughts out. That's the thing. You might have somebody say, hey man, how come you been asking this question? You gotta understand, there'd be 1,000 stuff in your head. And you can only say so much at that moment. If you do bring it back on again, you might bring up certain stuff and then go from there. But yeah, I say this though, to anybody who wants to be a podcaster, if you love if you want to do this, stick with it. You might have the days you don't want to do it at all, but trust me, God knows your calling when it's needed to do it. So yeah.
So let me ask you this: with all the people you done interviewed, are there any people out there, maybe in the industry now, that you still want to interview? Maybe you haven't interviewed them yet. I don't know, a Charlemagne, Joe Budden, something like that. India Ari, I don't know. Anybody you still want to interview that you might not have interviewed yet?
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. There are 2 people in mind. I've been trying to interview them. I don't know what's going on. Every time I try to get them, it's always something, Karen White and Teddy Riley. Listen, if you watching this, please talk to your PRs and managers. Look, listen, let's make this happen. My PR, big shout out to Ms. V Vintage. She been trying to get at y'all, but for some reason, when we think we get there, something always comes up. So please, let's make this happen. This ain't no diss, but because when I did try to get on, it was official. Then something came up. Then I tried to interview them. Then something came up again. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna let God work on that. So I'm a type of person, I'm patient. So all you can't do is pray for it, man. I tell you, but I ain't gonna lie to you. There be certain people I want to get because I mean, man, like I want to get like Jackie Jackson or get Marlon Jackson. I want to get Lauryn Hill. That's a bunch of people in mind. But as I realized too, that don't force the situation, let it evolve. If it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. If God don't want you in that situation, it ain't got to do with the artist, must be the person behind them. And I'm gonna say this too. No offense to anybody that's a PR, but please don't lie to anybody that's a podcaster, radio host, talk show host, anything, because understand this. I've been in business for a long time. The word gets around quick. I know how you operate, and so please don't do that because you make, and then you don't tell me you lied to the artist. That's the bad part about it. So everybody knows somebody some type of way. So please don't do that, and it's sad, yeah.
Yo, this your boy Kenny D. Hey, didn't mean to interrupt your show, but I just wanted to take a quick minute, just to let you guys know. If you want to see more dope interviews like this one, that's right, you want to go on YouTube and go to the Kenny D Show Live, all right? And also, don't forget about our website, thekennydshow.com, all right? We got you. Yo, I'm done talking. Back to the show. Okay, I like that. Yo, if you are just tuning in, you are tuned in to the Kenny D Show, where we highlight and we bring you entrepreneurs, hustlers, and stars. And today we got a hustler and a star in the building, the one and only Rashad Ali, talking to us about his podcast and him being in the industry, a straight pioneer in the industry. I like it. All right. So today's quick topic of the show is Brittany Renner and Kevin Gates divorce after basically 2 months of being together in holy matrimony in a marriage. What's your thoughts on that with Kevin Gates getting married to Brittany Renner and really it just not even going 90 days? What's your thoughts on that?
I'm not even shocked, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. I knew that relationship was gonna be a one and done. You know what I'm saying? Quick. You know what I'm saying? Because when I first saw them together, I said, okay, what month is this? And I said, I'll give it by spring or something. They're gonna be up out of here. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna last that long. Because, with that situation, and I'm gonna explain to everybody, this ain't gotta do with put a person down. It's just that somebody like Kevin Gates, this goes to anyone, but you give yourself into you deal with somebody like that. Don't get me wrong, Kevin Gates, he's a smart brother. Big shouts to him and stuff. But understand what you get yourself into. And as far as that sister, it's like, what type of brother he is. You know who you are as a person. You don't see all the videos and everything. But my thing is like, never rush into something that in your heart that's not you. It has to be you. And even though I know that, he has a Muslim background and she just, got in it. It just that it's not good to bury that fast like that. It's like there's a difference between liking and lusting than in love with somebody, because a relationship has to grow and evolve. That's the problem. And I think that with them, they liked each other, but it just crashed and burned. You got two different people, two different worlds and stuff, and it's not gonna pan out. And with that one, I was like, man, they're gonna break up. You know what I'm saying? And stuff because go ahead.
So let me ask you this. Do you think over the years now we in 2025 has marriage lost its touch? Like, because it seems like people now are getting together. It's not really serious. They're not there for the long haul. They're there only for temporary purposes, whatever that reason may be. What's your thoughts on that? Has marriage lost its touch?
I believe it is. Even though I want to say this, big shouts to those that, the marriage still exists. I think what it is, social media plays that part in a way. Because whenever a young woman, young man, when they brought up in this world, and, parents, they raise up how they view things. And a lot of times, with a woman that has no guidance in the house, it's like, prime example, if a mother has 5 kids by 2 or 3 different men, then one child might make it. You'd be like, you know what? I'm not gonna be like my mother, so I'm gonna break that generational curse, and stuff. And you got some be on drugs, this and that. And the sad part about it, even though we watch women be a fan of these female rap artists and everything, and in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, to broke with this guy, you don't have to agree everything this woman says. She can sit here and try to say, well, Sam ain't no good, he's this and that. But at the same time, you get his sister benefit of doubt. You don't know what she did to him. And they rolling with that. Because you think about it, hip hop plays a part of it. Every time you get on Instagram and Facebook, about 80% of Black women, not all, between half of, I want to say, let me see, between 25 through 45, I'm going to give the age range. It's sad that you see a Black woman that's 45 competing with a young woman that's 25. You wearing stuff like you just came out of a strip club or you just got done tricking. It's sad, how Black women, destroy themselves like that. It's like, you don't want a man walk up to you, call you the H word or the B word, but at the same time, it's okay for a rapper or any celebrity to call you that. So tell me, there's something right or wrong in that. So, that's why I say that the structure of the household changed. Mothers of today has gave up, because I'm going to tell you where the business illness starts from it. You're the end of slavery, beginning of 1900s. Like if a mother is light-skinned and the father is dark-skinned, And one of the child becomes way darker. They must got it from his parents or whatever. They be like, I don't know why you dark like this. You didn't get it from me. You must got it from your daddy and this and that. That's where the mental abuse happens. So you look at social media the way it is now, it started from 100 years ago. It worked its way up to this point, because there was a time where you look at it, with BT, with Bob Johnson owned it, where you see commercials talking about your black is beautiful, where you see black women, going to college. You see a young man, working at McDonald's. He's got a great education, doing good and stuff. You don't see it no more. Everybody, everybody ever hear this? Half of women want to get pregnant so bad by a rapper. Everybody wants a reality show. Everybody wants to have a breaking news and everything. So, but I say this though, to those who not with all that crap, I say this though, if you like somebody like you, to any brother out there, just keep in mind that to the man who got the right state of mind that whoever you going for, let God, bring it to you. Just because the sister got a nice body, nice face, and all that doesn't mean that she's like it all the time. And if you date somebody, pay attention to how she talks to her friends, her family, versus you. Then you get the details of who you like, And another thing too, if you're a spiritual brother, make sure the woman has a love for God, loves life, and and wants to build a foundation, and have a great unique circle where like her and her friends on the same page as you as well as your family and stuff, so that's my advice on that one. Same way with fellas.
Okay. Well said, well said, well said. So let me ask you this in reference to that. Do you think maybe some of these women, because a lot of times women, it almost feels like they like a little bit of drama when they are dealing with us men, right? And if it's no drama, maybe they get bored, they're ready to leave because there's no drama in the it's not exciting because it's just boring, right? The successful man he's usually boring. Do you think that social media is playing a part in that, or is that just the nature of the woman?
Just the nature of a woman. I would say both. Because I'm gonna tell you, there's a prime example. This is the one brother, though they mentioned he's a popular YouTuber and stuff, and he just dogged us man left and right. He said, not all men, but half of the man. He's saying about women's point of views of things, and I'm gonna inject on that one as a straight man. For one, the way women are is based on how their mother is. It's like you can tell your kids stay on the drugs, but also too, just because you were scoring on what your husband, your fiance, boyfriend did, give your daughter advice, but don't do it where you tack in every man. Then in her mind, she thinking, oh, well, okay, I gotta do it like that too. You know what I'm saying? I gotta destroy a man, say he ain't about nothing. That's where people put too much of their feelings and don't tell about responsibility about life. You know what I'm saying? You could tell your child what happened to you, but you want your daughter to be better than you. You know what I'm saying? Well, you messed up at. Because as a parent, when you are given those titles and stuff, it's your responsibility to tell your kids what's right and wrong. But if you're not teaching your child, not only to love yourself, but also, love the person who you with. That's treat you like good. That's treat you good. You know what I'm saying? But the sad part about it, though, it all starts with the parents. The generation curse will always live on, unfortunately. Because there's no structure in the house. There was a time, it seemed like, when Martin Luther King got assassinated and Malcolm X and everybody, it seemed like the structure just got destroyed. The crack came in, the drugs and all that other stuff came in, and it just destroyed us back to back. When hip hop took over, it just crumbled even further. Because the hatred gets hypnotized. The drugs hypnotize the Black community. You're killing people. All kinds of stuff. All the events it hypnotize our Black community. That's why we live in a world of 50-50. Because no matter how good you do your life, people always try to find something wrong with you. And if you do slip, you're like, I told you, man. I told you, Kitty wasn't no good, man. You know what I'm saying? That brother been fake since day one. They would do that. You know what I'm saying? You didn't have a nice house and a car. You know what I'm saying? You just bought a house. He'd be like, oh, man, forget that, man. That ain't nothing. As soon as you lose, he'd be like, see, I told you, man. I told you, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how do you know? You know what I'm saying? Because what you lose, you can regain. Because I'm gonna tell you though, the problem with the black household that we don't, you know, teach our kids about love. Because I understand that it's sad though. Prime example, I know a lady, and she got like 7 kids. And the sad part about it is that if you sit here and tell your daughter, I want you to wear, some booty shorts, and I want you to wear this makeup. I want to show you, my man, how pretty you is. You tell your daughter to dress like that from a stranger. So he's thinking that, oh, okay. And okay, so if I can have you, then I can have her too. And she's 16 years old. Man, that's sad, man. Because as much as we sit here and talk bad about a man, not all man, but at the same time, women got to take the blame of it too. So, you know what I'm saying? You got the bad and the bad. You know what I'm saying? I believe the good women out of it, but just the ones that don't want to be held accountable, that's a problem. And that's the reason why crime rate always happens. Because you ever notice, every time a young black man, gets killed, that's involved in drugs and stuff like that, they be like, oh man, Walter, he was a good son, I miss my little son, what I'm saying? I miss my chocolate son. But yeah, instead, you didn't say though he gave you money, but he was selling drugs, but that was okay. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, too, you hear that you posted pictures. I'm gonna tell you though, okay, the generation curse starts if you got a 5-year-old son, you tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna give you this gold chain, I'm gonna give you a lot of money.
Right.
And you tell him hold a peace out or the middle finger. You actually pick it up where you left off at. And if your son dies at 15, whose fault is that?
Yeah, you're right.
So people don't talk about that, man.
Wow. Well said. So you have been helping independent artists all across the country. What's up with that? Can you talk to us a little bit about you helping independent artists in the industry?
Yeah, so the first time I started helping artists, I was about like 14, 15 years old, helping them sell their back then was cassette tapes, they became CDs on the streets and stuff. Be posted up at the mall, posted up at all black record stores and stuff. A lot of hip hop artists I was helping out at the time, make a little money, bring home maybe like 20, 30, 40, $50 and stuff, sometimes 100, and just put the word out. And it's crazy though too, because back then we didn't have no Facebook, Instagram, or nothing on YouTube to even put it out there like that. So post on flyers. So as time was on, my name got out there. So fast forward up, by the time I found out we had social media, I said, cool, I could take all my thoughts, all my creativity I put on the platform. So that way it takes a lot of load off of me and stuff. So the street teams, I do miss that. But at the same time, we ain't got to do that no more now because we got social media. You know what I'm saying? Takes a lot of load off for everybody. But for me, I want to let the fans know that there are good music out there. It's just the point of, we had to acknowledge, because one thing, R&B would never die. Hip-hop would never die. Because you go to a family cookout, a wedding, anywhere, a DJ's playing some music, or somebody got a car with a great sound system. Someone's gonna play that, I already in the house and stuff, But I enjoy what I do, and I always let independent artists know what I can provide for them. Even some of the well-knowns, what I'm saying, or what I do, and I'm glad that's the thing too, when you put stuff out there, they had to trust in you, and you got to really back it up. So, when you do stuff like that, it comes a long way. Like Joey from the Rude Boys, made a song right all over your face, and for him to see how I move and him acknowledge it, I appreciate that, And and that's one thing, you helping the community out of music, the word gets out. You are well respected. For me doing this for 29 years, here I am. I'm not even 60 or 70, but here I am, so I might be, 43. It's a blessing, man, because half my life been involved in that. And I believe that God put me in that position. Because they don't tell me, I know I've been, doing like regular stuff, but just, I enjoy what I do, man. I just want people to know there's good music out there. Because one thing about good music doesn't have no expiration date. But I think what it is, though, with the radio, it plays a part to make people think that, oh, man, there's music trash out there. Even though there is some trash out there, but that ain't it. You know what I'm saying? So there's good music out there. Just that it's going to take something really to break all that over.
So I like that you said that. It's going to take something to break all of that. If you had to put on your, I don't know, executive hat on, Kevin Lyles or Babyface or uh Leo Cohen hat, put your executive hat on, Mr. Rashad Ali. What would you do to bring music back to where it used to be, where there was a whole lot of greatness? Every song that came out, you knew it was great. You was waiting for a Donnell Jones album to come out. You couldn't wait for Jay-Z's album to come out. You couldn't wait for Nas to drop his next album. What would you do if you had on your executive music hat to change the game in the industry?
Oh man, that's a good one, man. If I own a record label,
Mhm.
and or if I was just a big time producer that got money out the year gang, I would have got about like 10 legendary artists, maybe 15, 15 songs. I would have hired LA Babyface to produce some songs. To make a R&B hip hop album, I would got LA Babyface produce a couple tracks. No, well, Babyface. I know LA he don't produce no more songs. Okay, Babyface, DJ Premier. Uh, Also, I would have got Jimmy Jam, Taylor Lewis. And then I would have got some newer people, like D Bows, the guy who wrote songs for Bruno Mars, and what's that one brother named Lucky Day. Man, I would have got some dope artists. I would have had Tony Braxton, Tony Terry, uh, who else? Eric Benet, Keith Lattimore. I would have got a bunch of people, you know what I'm saying? And the album, okay, my album would have been similar to like Quincy Jones' Back on the Block, where he had R&B, hip hop, jazz, classical music wrapped in one, to let people know that, that, hey, we here.
Mm.
So I would have put money behind it. Live performances would have made sure the videos was out there, and to let people know that there's a lot of great music out there, you know what I'm saying? It's just that people don't want to invest into, because I'm gonna tell you, what it is, they don't want love back in the music. They don't want conscious music back in it, because back then we was growing up, we had De La Soul, we had Tupac, we had a bunch of R&B great singers in between, and it was a great balance in between. Now it's like you see everybody do the same thing and stuff. It's crazy, man.
Mm, Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, but you're right. You are right. So, in terms of magazines, you've really done your thing in the magazine world, doing things with certain magazines. Can you talk to us about the magazines that you appeared in over your years?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, with my work, that's one thing I learned that, when you do what you do on social media, your work speaks for itself.
Mhm.
And I'm blessed that I never had to ask anybody, can I get featured on the magazine? I always got an email from a company or somebody sent me a referral, and I send my information and go from there. I'm like, wow, man, it's made it easier for me. So the other way around, or sometimes you got to pay packages and stuff like that, But when I first got on 40 Sports Magazine, big shouts to Marvin Chambers, and that blew everything up. Went from there. I think that went from to Hype Magazine. Then it went from like Heavy Lifestyle Magazine, everything. I'm like, wow. I'm looking at it. I'm like, y'all can't believe it. All the time, I'll be a fan of people that's on a magazine growing up, and I'm on it and stuff. And but it motivated me to be like, you know what? Seeing all this, I gotta step my game up. Whatever I did yesterday, last month, last year, I gotta be the best version of Rashad. And show my mother this, she was proud of me. You know what I'm saying? And and just because my thing was with the online magazine, I get a chance to show people, this is me right here. Y'all see me on the screen, I'm doing this and that, but this is how I start from the very beginning. You guys get a chance to know me. I'm not an AI robot, nothing like that, you know what I'm saying? I'm human. So this is
Right.
me in organic, and me engaging to the fans helped out a lot with these online magazines. People tell me, man, I know you did all this, did all that. So yeah, man. And just that back then we didn't have social media, and
Mm.
stuff. So with the way Facebook and all that is, it came late in the game. People think, oh, everybody's new comer. It's just the difference between then and now is that it made us more advanced. Made us stand out more than we did back then. 'Cause back then, man, it was a struggle, man. Just trying to get stuff heard out there, unless you had a great connection or two and stuff. So, uh, 32 online magazines, I know it's going to be more in the future, man. And I thought to myself, I said, man, if I ever get on Essence Magazine, as far as a cover, I'm good, man. On Vibe Magazine or something. But I did get mentioned on there in the past, like
Okay.
rest in peace to Ronald Levert. She was the youngest child of Eddie Levert from the OJs.
Right.
When I broke that news, man, dude, it went everywhere. I'm talking about Baller Alert, Vibe Magazine, Essence, Ebony, uh, Hollywood Unlock and everything, and I'm looking at it, I'm screenshotting everything. I'm like, yo, man, this is huge. Because you never know who's watching and everything. Because she died, she had, I think it was lupus or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, lupus.
yeah. And I'm seeing YouTube bloggers talking and stuff. I'm like, wow, man, this is real. Because they could have went to anybody. But I think what it was because me be who I am, me being on the scene, and played that part. So I said, okay, I really could keep in mind it wasn't even controversy. You just say, be resting in peace to her, you know what I'm saying? So uh yeah, man, that really blew my mind because I never thought that would actually happen.
Mm. Okay. Well said, well said, well said. So we're getting ready to play a game called Who You Got? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give you two artists and you tell me who you got, who's better between the two. All right?
Right?
All right. So first, we are gonna go August Alsina and
Uh-oh.
Raheem Devon. Who you got?
Right, Devon, man. Easy. Because I'm gonna tell you though, like I understand, with August Alsina situation, but he's a great artist. Don't get me wrong. I don't think we got a chance to see the best of August Alsina. He was one of the type of artists that what could have been, how things would went right as far as like career wise and stuff, besides the shenanigans that's going on currently. But every time I
Okay.
pick Raheem Devon, because say like, you on a date with a sister and say like you in a car and stuff, you got a CD or your MP3, she's gonna vibe to it. So you play Raheem Devon from 2005, 2025. She's rocking to like the Quiet Storm songs, the hip hop soul records, you know what I'm saying? Because for a fact you got a satisfied date, you know what I'm saying? August I've seen her, only way that would happen, unless she's a fan of it, you might get away with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So the next one, Lauren Hill and Queen Latifah. Who you got?
Ooh. I love Lauryn Hill. We never got a chance to see the best of her. I'm gonna have to roll with Queen Latifah. You know what I'm saying? And the only reason
Mm,
why, because it wasn't about who came before who, but I mean, and I'm glad you said that. Queen Latifah, welcome to my house, classic. You know what I'm saying? Give it to a queen, classic. And I think that she don't get it. And much we appreciate Lauryn Hill, but I feel like Queen Latifah never get appreciated enough because the woman could spit. And people type in Queen Latifah
mm,
this what's they Foxy Brown, they don't know what I mean. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
And she's one of the types that she made her mark, she got nothing to prove. So big shouts to the queen.
Okay. All right. So, but give you another one.
Right?
Tony, and
Uh-oh.
Mint Condition. Who you got?
Oh man, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to give Tony Tone an edge.
Okay.
And all the reason why I said that though, because like personally, this is me. I know some people might feel some type of way. Okay, now from now I'm gonna leave the fan stamp. Well, yeah, okay, from a business standpoint, the first two, no, the first three albums, yeah, I would say mid condition. But far as like album after album, I'm gonna get Tony Tone because every album, man, Tony Tone was never a miss. It was always a hit. Even
Mm,
songs that wasn't even single was a hit. But
mm.
yeah, I'm gonna have to say that. I love mid condition, but yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to Tony Tone. You know what I'm saying? And RIP Dwayne Wiggins, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, I'm going to give you another one. Most Def and Q-Tip. Who you got?
Ooh, man. Wow. Yeah, because I'm gonna have to add Black Star Trek. But yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to Q-Tip. I'm gonna have to give it to him. Even don't get me wrong, most Def, man, he's a spitter, man. He goes the best. But I felt like he took so many breaks that we never got a chance to see what he, the best of him, what he could do. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to get Q-Tip. And the production he did on LA Cool J's new album, man, listen. Fire, man. You know what I'm saying? But
Mm.
far as rhyme skill wise, I'm gonna have to give it to Most Def. When it comes to the whole flow of it, you know what I'm saying? But production wise, yeah, I say Q-Tip and stuff. But I'm gonna say there's similarity, man. But as far as musically wise, yeah, if I had this to anything quicker, it'd be Q-Tip.
All right, I'm gonna give you the last one. I don't know if you're gonna get this one. This one's gonna be tough.
Oh,
Nicki Minaj and Missy Elliott. Who you
oh man, damn, got me on the spot.
got?
Ooh, you know what? There's some Nicki songs I like, man. Ooh, damn. I like the '90s Missy Elliott. But I got lost with her in like sort of the 2000s, man. You know, that's a whole different story for another episode. We talk about that. I'm about to go with Nicki Minaj in a way. All the
Okay.
reason, yeah, because she just, I mean, they so dope, man. Ooh, I'm about to say a towel on that one, man. I had to go through the whole catalog to even talk about that, man. Ooh, that's a tough one.
So who you got between those two?
I'm gonna have to go with Missy though, because I'm gonna tell you why though, because she never made songs. She feel like she had to talk about, you know, her clique all the time, if you know what I mean. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right, 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 right,
But
right.
what I like about her, and people overlook it, she's an amazing rapper, but she could sing her butt off.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote some amazing songs for 702. I mean, you know, just Leah, you know, I mean, a handful. So I'm gonna have to give it to her both. You know, if I had to, I say Missy Elliott. You know, and don't get me wrong, Nicki Minaj, she could spit. But I think with me, you know, from me being this age, I'm gonna go with Missy Elliott. And if I was young, I'd probably say Nicki Minaj and stuff. But go
All
with that.
right. So Missy Elliott over Nicki Minaj. I don't know how the Bobs are gonna feel about that, but all right, okay, cool.
Yeah. Sorry, Bombs. I love y'all though, but you know, be the OG, and I gotta stick with the old school on that one.
All right. So for that young girl out there who wants to be the next Rashad Ali, for that next I'm sorry, that young boy out there who wants to be the next
It's all
Rashad
good.
Ali, what would you tell them if they wanted to get into the music industry as a connoisseur like yourself?
You know, I say, you know what? Stay true to you, stay independent, because you know we live in a time where if you want to be the next thing, you know, be like me, you know, saying make sure you know your history. You could be a fan of music, or make sure you study the greats. You know, look up, the websites. You know, look up, the documentaries and everything, because you don't want to come and think you know what all to end up crashing and burning. You know,
Mm,
it has to be built in you. You know, being a podcast. No, just being a host of anything. It's not easy like that. You know, some people think it's easy because see a person watch it, but you gotta know what you're talking about. When you bring in the world, your talents and stuff. Your work speaks for itself and how people view you and everything. But also, too, I would say this though, if you want to do this, be about your business. You gonna have your moments in time, but at the same time, too, do your homework. Then you step into it. You know what I'm
mm.
saying? And this is a skill, because the more consistent you be, the better you come and you evolve as a person. Because I'll put it this way: I don't look at none of my stuff 20 years ago. I was interviewing people, because I'll be like, you know what? If I was seasoned then, oh man, it'd been a whole different situation. But those situations, they be to this interview right here.
Mm. Real talk, real talk, real talk. Okay. So if anybody wants to uh get in contact with Rashad Ali to come on your show, or maybe they want you to come on their show, or what have you. Maybe they want you to work with them somehow, some production, whatever. How do they get in contact with Rashad Ali?
Yeah, you can email me at Rashad R&B so at gmail.com. If you already follow me on the R&B Talk Show on Instagram, you can DM me. I'm more reachable, so I can always reach back and stuff. As long as you got something to bring, if I'm interested to it, hey, say let's collab and go from there. I love working with our people, because it gives viewers motivation. Be like, you know what? I love to do it. Don't have to be what we doing. It motivate them to run a barbershop, to collaborate with or they want to start a business, own a grocery store, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because I love to see Black excellence. When people are inspired to do a lot of great things. So that's what motivates me, because I love seeing you and everybody. Because everybody be like, you know what, man, look how far we came. This is a whole different generation. You know what I'm saying? And to break your own show without no boss over your head, you can just do whatever you want to do. That's what makes it so dope about that.
Well said, well said. So, any future projects out there for Rashad Ali and the R&B show, the podcast that you're doing? Any future projects coming up for Rashad Ali?
I'm glad you said that. So, make a long story short, I had a meeting with a certain individual. You know, I know I got to keep it NDA, but the R&B talk show will, be on Roku TV. That part I could mention that. You know what I'm saying? Working on to get the show on, the TV stream and stuff, because you can only do so much, with the YouTube, the Instagram, and Facebook, where you can put it's motivation to take it further. Where I could play old school music videos for the past, as well as do video and stuff. Working on a video file for new music for artists around the world. What was it like? Alternative R&B, neo soul, hip hop soul, and everything and stuff. I got that going on. I'm working on to get the Star Soul Hall of Fame Awards together. Working on that part. So I got a bunch of stuff that is coming. Then I'm working on trying to get a city winery here in Louisville, Kentucky, because it's more Chicago, Detroit, was Atlanta, Philadelphia, Louisville definitely needs one here because there's a lot of R&B fans, man. So try to get my hands on everything. But I know God got something planned for me for sure.
Okay, I like that. So, for all those people who've been rocking with you since Louisville, Kentucky, since your first hosted in high school, Janet Jackson, the R&B podcast, the R&B show, any final thoughts for your fans out there or shout outs before we sign off on the Kenny D Show?
Man, I want to say a shout out to you, my brother, man, for taking the time to come on here, man. You're definitely a dope host, man. I recommend everybody, man, the fans on my end, man. Make sure you guys check out the Kenny D Show, man, every Wednesday, man. You know what I'm saying? This brother here is the truth, and I appreciate you, man. I want to say big shout out to the fans that have been supporting me from the very beginning. Those who have followed me currently, I really appreciate you. Big shout outs to everybody, man, that support me, even people in the industry. I mean, it's a handful of names out there, man. I could explain. After 7, but Joy for the Rude Boys, Mark Gordon from Laverne. I mean, man, it speaks for itself, man. High value, man. And thank you, my brother, man, because I'm telling y'all, this is where it's at right here, man, on the Kenny D Show, man. You know what I'm saying? Your boy Rashad Ali from the R&B Talk Show. Tell you, this brother here is the truth. I'll tell you.
All right. Yo, it was a good show. Tell everybody who you chilling with.
I'm chilling with the Kenny D Show right here, man. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you guys subscribe, like, comment, share. Tell your friends, tell everybody, man. You know what I'm saying? Because, he bringing great content, man. He is for the community. He is, what people need to see. You know what I'm saying? So me hanging this brother right here, trust me, come from me. I've been in this game for 29 years. Trust me, this is legit.
And that concludes our show for this evening. But before I let you go, I'd like to thank all my viewers out there for tuning in. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. That's right. You're going to subscribe and make sure you turn those notifications on. So when we upload videos, you are the first to get it. And last but not least, we'd like to thank the one and only Louisville, Kentucky's finest, the one and only Rashad Ali for blessing us with his presence on the show. I see you next time on the Kenny D Show. You don't want to miss it. Holla.